Okay guys, welcome back to part 2 of our MPC 71 Dodge Demon build. Now, picking up where we left off last time, we're going to start by masking off all our chrome trim around the windows. We're going to be painting this in Pro Scale Paint's Superfine Silver, which is one of my preferred colours for the windows. So we're using Azu 1mm and 2.5mm tape for this. I used to use the Tamiya tape. The Azu is much more reliable. The Tamiya just varies in quality from time to time, and I got sick of wasting money. So Azu is pretty well available in the UK. So this is my choice of tape. Keeping that little box at the top so it stays dust free. It's a case of just folding around all the raised detail, burnish it down with a cotton bud, and just doing this. It's a boring, laborious job. But again, the better the job you do now, the better it will look at the end. So just follow it around, use the raised surface as a guide, place the tape next to it. And then we've got our marker lights as well. So they're going to be painted up as well. So again, just take your time here. Just be careful you don't scratch the body as well. Very easily done with the tweezers. Been there and done it so many times. Just be careful. A good set of tools for doing this is essential. A good set of scissors and tweezers is a very worthwhile investment for this hobby. So just take your time. There's 4 of these to do, 2 on the back, 2 on the front. And then continuing around, we'll then go in with Tamiya tape, a little bit bigger, and start to fill in the outer edge all the way around. Just make sure you keep burnishing it down as well. And when you're done, before you paint, go around and burnish all the edges because it can lift over time. So just go around and freshly burnish everything down and make sure you detack all tape. Put it on your hand a couple of times, peel it off before you stick to the body, because you can, in some instances, if you've not degreased the body properly, you can pull paint off. It's not less prominent using lacquer paints because they etch themselves to the plastic a bit, but it's something to be aware of. Always detack your tape, definitely. So everything masked up, as you can see, it's more masking tape than man. We've got some Pro Scale Paint Superfine Silver, again with our pre-thinned silver paints. Absolutely beautiful colour in our ever-expanding metallic range. We've got our Iwata, this is our, let's see, that is my metallic CR3 Iwata Revolution. I just used solely for metallics. I'm just going to put down several light coats, not hosing the paint on, just going around and putting a nice gentle coat down. Making sure to get all the angles inside the window surrounds, and just make sure that tape stays burnished down, because like I say, it can lift over time. So just make sure it stays burnished down, because we don't want any paint bleeding through onto our beautiful orange, because it will wreck all your hard work. There we go. Beautiful colours are metallics. Absolutely tiny pigments in there as well. Very finely pigmented. The metallics are one of my proudest creations. They look absolutely fabulous. And I think this Superfine Silver is the perfect look for the window trim. Now, you could chrome it if you wanted. I know a lot of people do, but if you do it afterwards, it'll wipe off when you're wiping over the body. You could use a chrome system, but it's a bit long-winded for windows and such. So for me, I just like to use a Superfine Silver. You can see how finely pigmented it is and just how good it looks. And after a couple of coats, say 3 or 4 light coats, it really does look absolutely fantastic. So molding and wipers, not a fan of them, but these are some of the better ones. They actually do overhang onto the screen on this, so they do actually look pretty good. Like I said, we get all the marker lights at the same time, door handles, so on and so forth. Just make sure the coats are even and thorough throughout. But yeah, beautiful colour. I think we've got about 12 now metallics in our range, and they're well worth a look. With some careful unmasking, what took hours to do takes minutes to spray and mere seconds to unmask. We can see we've got no bleed through whatsoever. Absolutely beautiful. Nice contrasting silver on the orange. Now, I like to do this beforehand because we get a bit of shine off the 2K as well, which helps accentuate the silver. And there we go. Very happy how that's turned out. Looks really good. Now, with all that unmasked and sprayed, well, masked and unsprayed, we're on to the worst part about this kit, and it's these decals. They are truly awful. There's several of us building this kit so far, and I've warned everybody away from using them. Myself and Dan Pedersen have used them, and Dan's fell apart before we even got to use them. and they are literally the thickest, most plastic-like decals I've ever used. They are horrendous. I applied at least 10 sessions of heat, 10 sessions of decal solutions of varying strength, and they still just didn't want to conform. They're just so thick and unwilling to conform that it's beyond a joke. Now, when I clear coated them, my biggest fear did come true, and I did get them lifting a little bit. Thankfully, not too much, but enough to cause concern. So my advice on this kit would be, do not use any of the decals. They are dire. If you need to do stripes, although it's quite difficult to do ones like this, I would advise masking and spraying, and I really wish I had, because I would have saved a lot of heartache and hours of work. Thankfully, what I got was a okay result. It could have gone a lot worse, but I definitely did have issues where they started to lift under the clear. So yeah, they are just so thick, it is beyond a joke. Absolutely terrible. I don't know why you spend the time to repop, retool and remold a kit and then supply really crappy decals with it. Baffles me. Really baffles me. But hey, who am I to complain? Who am I to complain? So, like I say, several applications of decal solutions from normal to strong and extra strong from UMP. Several goes over with the heat gun, and yeah, it just didn't want to know. Just didn't want to know. I did my best to get them down. Just too thick and unwilling to conform, and just an absolute nightmare. So, if you do use them, good luck. Yeah, so make a point of how bad they are. On the decals for the instrument panel, I went straight to Mr. Hobby leveling thinner, and even that wouldn't set them in place. So, yeah, I know there's all the extra thin trick, but I wasn't going to put extra thin anywhere near this painted body. So, I probably spent over an hour just putting these two stripes on, and it still just wouldn't conform. Even when I cut the door shut, they were just an absolute nightmare to try and get the decal in there. So, be warned, if you're going to use them, they're going to fight you. My advice would be chuck the whole sheet in the bin and find some alternatives or mask. Like I say, even with self-applications of heat, which will subdue most decals into submission, these ones just didn't want to know. So like I say, best advice, don't use them. Find an alternative in your spares box or mask and spray it. I would definitely avoid using these at all costs. Okay, with the decals set as much as I can do, it's time to cut the panel line. So with a fresh blade and a scalpel, follow the panel line, just lightly score it, and then we need to hit it with the water brush and a strong decal solution. And again, just a nightmare to get them to conform. Didn't want to know, but we just did our best, persevered with it. Plenty of applications, just keep going and going and going, and eventually they kind of did conform into place. We get there in the end. Like I say, we've got to work with what we've got sometimes, and we did. We did. They're even really, look how glossy they are as well. You can see how thick they are. Look at the fuel for the cap at the back. Now this is the most troublesome one, and on my built model, if you look at the back, you can see where the top of it's lifted on the boot lid. So definitely don't use this one. This one is shockingly bad. Yeah, this is probably the worst part of my model, is where this decal started to lift on the very back. But hey, lessons learned. Yeah, might be able to repop an old kit and retool it in nice new plastic. Doesn't mean the decals are always going to be good. Now, this is a new tool on our site. These are actually CA glue applicators, precision applicators, but for filling in these marker lights using Tamiya X clears, we can load it up and just touch to capillary reaction it in there, and they work absolutely brilliant. So yeah, these are super applicators, so they're for precise application super glue. We do 4 different sizes. They're brand new to the site. They're an absolutely beautiful tool as well. As you can see, if we just do this, load it up and just touch, we can infill that raised decal, that raised detail, and get our marker lights perfect. Okay, it's just touching it, trying to get over the edge if you can. But obviously, being an alcohol-based paint gun over lacquer, it'll just wipe off anyway. So yeah, well, look, these are in with the Bob Smith Industries glue. You can go and have a look over there. And like I say, very useful for the CA glue. Now we've got a panel line wash on. We've done a dark grey Tamiya panel line wash, enamel based wash. We've got some Sensador odorless mineral spirits on a cotton bud and a bit of tissue, and we're going to remove the most with the cotton bud, and then get rid of any excess with the tissue later on. So it's a case of pop the panel line in the panel line, let it dry. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Once it's dry, come back in with a moistened cotton bud, wipe off any excess that you can, and then use your moistened bit of tissue to wipe off any more. Now be aware, whilst the enamel won't affect the lacquer, the abrasiveness of the tissue will, and it's very easy to burn through paint. Now with the body ready for paint, we're just going to let everything settle for a day or so because of those awful decals. Sorry, for clear, not paint. In the meantime, we're going to build up all the interior parts. Now it's quite a simple interior, builds up quite well. There's one really annoying part of the kit, and that's that rear differential with the exhaust built in. It's silly, but I guess it's just one of those things. It's easily dealt with. We use our Tamiya sprue cutters, an assortment of UMP thinny sanders to go around and clean everything up, and just again clean everything up to the best of our ability. Now the seats have got backs to them, so they're going to need gluing in place as well. Again, not the nicest seats in the car, probably true to life what were in the car back in the day. Dashboard's got a bit of detail on it, but again the decals really let it down by just their really poor performance. So cut as close as you can to the sprue with the cutters, then remove any excess sprue point with the sanders. And just take your time here. Again, the better job you do, the better it'll look at the end. And like to the seats, there is a back part to go on the seat. So again, remove as much sprue as we possibly can, and give it a light sand with the sanding stick until it's all gone and it's nice and smooth. Engine halves we can glue together with our Tamiya extra thin mix. So just let a capillary action bead run through it, hold together for a few seconds or so, and then continue around the whole model until that's done. Got our intake manifold in as well. I think, is that an intake manifold or is that a cylinder head? I can't quite see. That's a cylinder head, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, it's a cylinder head I'm gluing in place there. Yeah, so they're glued in place. Like I say, the instructions are a little bit vague. Once you can follow them, no, they are quite self-explanatory. So just make sure you get everything orientated the correct way round. There's the intake manifold. So again, make sure it's orientated the correct way. Refer to instructions. Then push it fully home. And glue in place. There we go, a little bit of pressure, help it seat itself. And then chrome. Now, chrome either will strip of bleach in mere seconds or it's going to take days. It can literally take a minute and it's all gone. Or in this case, it took 3.5 days for most of it to go. So, yes, I did my normal preparation here, the camera ready, zoom in for it not to even touch it for at least 2 days. And then it slowly started to remove it from the chrome parts. So the kit wheels, I've opted to leave chrome and we're going to dual coat them later. The chrome finishes in bad on them. The only reason I'm refinishing the other parts is because it's a little bit over thick on those parts, and you've got the sprue points where you cut them off. Leaves bare plastic, which will need sanding, which will take more chrome off. So yeah, here we go. Get ready, thinking, oh yeah, this will be walk in the park. This, and yeah, 3 days later, we just started to take it off, or 2.5 days later. So not great. I just wish manufacturers wouldn't put the locating points on the front or in areas where chrome, put them in the back where you can't see it. And sometimes you could actually save the chrome and reuse it. But either way, we're going to strip this and then we're going to use the ProScale chrome system on it, which will look even better anyway once it's done. So as you can see, it's an absolutely diddly squat, not a thing. So we're going to pop that to one side, and like I say, 2.5, 3 days later, it will finally start to come off. There's me like, go, work, will you? Do something. Right, all the body parts we're going to prime now. We've got some Mr. Servicer 1500 black, our Iwata Revolution CR3, 18 PSI again. I'm going to put a couple of coats of primer down on everything. Now we're going to primarily prime it in black and grey. So we'll use the Tamiya Grey elsewhere. And the reason we don't use our primer is because it's microfiller. It will leave a texture finish behind, and we can't get in all those nooks and crannies to sand it. So it's not really useful for doing this. So I do use Mr. Surfacer and Tamiya primers from time to time. So you can see I've got them decanted, well, mixed and stored in one of our bottles, which is very, very handy. And it's a case of going around and just giving everything probably 2 or 3 light coated primer, building up. This is probably the biggest part in the kit. Multitude of angles to get, so just make sure you get around them all. Again, the interior, a couple of coats all round in Mr. Surfacer Black. Does cover really well, Mr. Surfacer. There we go. And then the engine, we're going to paint in. It's actually, it looks like it's a Pro Scale bottle. It's not. Or is it? I might have primed this in Pro Scale, actually, thinking about it, because I can get to this one to sand. There we go. That's the engine primed. And we'll do these little parts at the same time as well. As you see, everything else off to the side has been primed in black. And then we start getting some paint downs. This is Tamiya LP5 semi-gloss. So we're going to do the main running gear and what have you, hoses and what have you in LP5. Same with the fan. The interior of the dashboard on LP5. The rest of it we're going to paint. I think we did jet black leather on this one, if I remember. Got the bulkhead for the front as well. As you can see, everything else getting painted, primed, and then we're on to some metallic work. So this is Pro Scale stainless steel on the exhausts. Again, pre-thin metallic paint, beautifully sized pigments, not oversized at all. They look absolutely fantastic when they're sprayed. And just a couple of coats of this, it builds up really quickly. Just nice light thin coats, build up nice and slow. And then this awkward part, I've opted to paint it in the stainless first, and we'll mask off that later and paint the black. It's probably the easiest way of doing it. Like I said, I'd rather see these molded separately, but hey, there's a reason why it's done like this. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. You've got to roll with the punches, just got to go with it. So we'll paint it in our stainless steel now. Once it's dry, we'll mask it and paint the black on the leaf springs and the differential later. You can see just how quick our metallics cover. Absolutely beautiful. There we go. A couple of coats of that down, that'll be looking absolutely phenomenal. So bright aluminium and stainless steel, the colours we use there, stainless steel on the exhaust and bright aluminium on the wheels and some of the other parts as well. And then it's 2K time. So, usual safety precautions. We've got our booth on. We're going to wet the surface, stop any dust getting airborne once it lands. It's a fresh filter in the booth. I've got these full length gloves. Now, I bought these for 3D printing, and I continued using them for the 2K. It looks like you're going to birth a cow or something. These things are really cheap to buy. They cover your skin on your arm. Once you glove up with the nitrile gloves, you then got pore protection. I've also got my full face 3M respirator on as well. There's a window cracked open, and with our bench vent going, the extractor is pulling through a nice fresh source of air. I'm in the room on my own. There's no pets or children or family members in there with me. And we've wetted the surface area, so if anything lands in there, any dust or what have you, it shouldn't get airborne again from the wetted kitchen paper. So, as I said in the previous video, for all these important steps, 2K will be just fine. We've got our plastic box to the left as a storage box for in between coats. We've got our Pro Scale Paints 2K system. I'm going to mix 2 parts clear to 1 part activator. So if you mix, say, 6 milliliters of clear, you then need 3 milliliters of activator, and that will give you 9 milliliters combined. Then we add 5% of that in thinner, which would be 0.75 milliliters. I think I'm going to work out 0.45 milliliters of thinner. My bad. So half a mil of thinner. So we're going to do that for the first couple of coats, And then after that, we're going to thin it a little bit more, but we'll cover that in a bit. So if that all mixed together using fresh pipettes for each chemical and throwing the pipettes away, we then add our thinner. Mix it all together. I would mix the clear coat and the activator first, and then mix the thinner in. And I would recommend straining it because, as I said before, you can get crusty bits around the rim of the activator, and we don't want to get those in our clear coat. So we've got our model, we've got our Tamiya anti-static brush, standard procedure as always. The model is securely mounted to our stand with masking tape as well to stop it falling off. And we've got our box to our left to put our model in between coats and to let it fully dry. We've got our Iwata CR5 Revolution airbrush, the standard airbrush I use for my 2K. We're at 18 psi, and we're going to start out by putting a nice semi-wet coat down over the entire car. So I've sped this footage up because you've seen this many times, but it's the same procedure. And if you want to see it in full time, you can slow it down. I think it's 2 times speed that I use, so you can always slow it down on YouTube. There's an option on the right hand side, and you can watch it in real time then. But a nice semi-gloss coat going down. Pay attention to all the wheel arches, windows, any vents or nooks and crannies to make sure we get nice even coverage. And then when we're happy with it, we'll pop it in our booth. We'll just switch our part around. There's our valance that we missed out, but we have painted now in the same number of coats we did the body in. And again, this will get a nice semi-wet coat. In the boot box for 5 minutes, let it flash off. It's nice and tacky now. And we come back with our second coat. So exactly the same as the first one, a nice semi-wet coat. We're not trying to get our full gloss coat on this coat. We're just laying down the foundations to our full clear coat. So another semi-wet coat, following the wet edge as we go. We're using a light so we can see where the paint's going and just keeping that wet edge fully going. So that means for every coat you put down, the previous edge will overlap it. I think it's about 30% they recommend. And again, up around the back as well. Up and around the windows, all across the roof, and pay attention to the bonnet as well, the inner edges. There we go. And there we go. And what we'll do, we'll pop that back in our box for about 90 seconds while we thin our clear coat a little bit more. So I found it beneficial on the last coat or couple of coats to thin the 2K another 10%. Now I've tested every which way but loose, and for me this is the best way. So we're going to pop our remaining clear coat back in a fresh medicine cup so I can see the markings on it perfectly. That way I can see exactly how much is left. So 10%, if we've got say 8 ml of clear left, or 6 ml say, we'll go with 6 ml, we're going to add 0.6 millilitres of thinner to the mix. And this will drastically thin it, a lot more than you think it will. A fresh pipette again, mix it together, and away we go. Now, this is where we're going to start trying to get our perfect clear coat. So this will spray a lot easier, it will spray a lot finer, and it will self-level a lot easier as well with being thinned just a touch more. Now we've already laid our tracks with our previous coats, so this will now help self-level all those out and give us a beautiful 2K clear coat. Now, we want this to look like glass when it's done, because how it looks when we're done, I know I repeat this all the time, how it looks when it's done is how it's going to dry. So the better the job we can do now, the better the finish we're going to have at the end. So if you've got any imperfections, any orange peel or any ripples, you want to get rid of those with the 2K. So just put another little bit more 2K down. So I'll put a coat down, spray the other bit, pop it in the booth for another, 30 to 60 seconds, take it out and have a look. If you're happy with it, leave it be. If it needs another go over, give it another light coat, but angle it towards the light and look for imperfections. Now I have spotted that one of the decals has just started to lift ever so slightly, but thankfully it's not too detrimental. The back's lifted a little bit across that boot lid, you can see the ripple in it, but there's literally nothing we can do about it at all. Just a really poor decals that, as I say, in hindsight, I really wish I hadn't used, but it's just one of those things. And there we go. That can now be put aside and left to cure. We'll leave that up between 5 and 7 days, and we can come back and polish it up then. Now with the wheels, we've got some semi-gloss Mr. Hobby. I think it's GX11, is it 2 or 113? It's a semi-gloss clear, and we're just going to semi-gloss the existing chrome parts out of the kit, and this will remove that horrible nasty looking chrome look out the kit and just make it look a bit more realistic. Now we could have stripped these, no problem at all, but I opted to leave them and just sat and code them. And then for the other chrome parts that we're going to use the the ProScale chrome system on, we're going to prime in black first of all. These are the parts we stripped in bleach earlier on. So we got most of the existing chrome off and sanded the rest off. We've all cleaned up, all the sprue points cleared up and any imperfections gone. We're going to prime it Mr. Surface of 1500 black. This is our first step of our chrome system. It's a nice black base coat, so you might as well combine that with primer and prime it in black, like so. There we go, nice even coated primer all over. And then for our front grille, I've opted to use an edding pen. I didn't know which way to go with this, but I used an edding pen to add the chrome detail around it. And then back in the booth very quickly, we're going to put some chrome down. So this is our chrome system through the iWater Revolution CR3 again, my metallic brush. I'm just going to put down 3 or 4 very light coats of the chrome. We're not hosing it on, we're just putting it on nice and lightly over our gloss black, because this has been 2K'd now. That's one thing I left out there. We've actually 2K'd this in between. So just a few light coats over the chrome, building it up slowly, over the clear, sorry. And then probably in total there's about 4 coats on there. And with allowing the 2K over the black, it gives us our perfect base for the chrome and is what will give it that highly reflective shine. Now we do try something different on this build. I don't do the last 2 steps of the chrome system, which would be sealer after the chrome and another coat of 2K. I left it and it was actually quite resilient for handling and put it on the body, so I went that way. So I reckon on here we've got about 3 coats of chrome, and as you can see, it's a beautiful chrome finish. Looks absolutely fantastic. If you've not tried our chrome system, I'd highly recommend it. It is probably the best chrome system you'll get. When it's 2K'd, sealed and everything, it's literally bulletproof. It's as tough as a 2K car body. It doesn't rub off or wipe off. And it is probably the best chrome you can get that you can handle. There's lots of chromes out there, but none of them you can handle without them rubbing off. It is kind of the Achilles heel of modelling paints is chrome, but ours solves that problem. So we've got the front rear bumper, the side mirrors and the interior mirror there as well. So they're all done. And there we go, they're looking really, really good. And there we go, that is part 2 done. We'll be back for part 3 very soon to get this project finished. Thanks for watching today. As always, thanks to all my patrons, whose name's going to flash up in the end of this video. If you'd like to become a patron, you can join. There's a link in the description down below. You get early access on all the videos by like 3 months. I am 10 video builds behind on ISM, so you've got access to 10 more video builds on Patreon early, and that will stay like that almost forever. There's an exclusive bench update every Sunday. There's an exclusive supporter group, which I go through every Sunday looking at everybody's work. There's a Facebook Messenger chat group. There's like 70 of us in, where you can talk and ask questions, talk directly to me. And if you go to the applicable tier, there's just 10% off a ProScale paint. So well worth becoming a patron if you fancy it. And without your support, I couldn't do these videos. Without my patrons, I couldn't do this. So I owe a debt of gratitude to everyone who takes the time to help support. There we go. This is our final coat of chrome. We're going to leave that there today. Make sure you sub to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, click that bell notification to get notified of the latest videos, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking of the build so far. So enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.